of food aid. And election board says withdrawal of ONLF from election is untimely and inconsequential. That is News Hour. With the news, I'm Tabitha John. Do stay with us. Analysts say President Biden's administration is helping TPLF to use food aid as a weapon in the Ethiopian war. A writer close to Horn of Africa affairs, Denton Collins, argues that U.S.'s support to such a terrorist group is nothing but the death of U.S. diplomacy. The writer, in his latest article, urges the U.S. and the West to refrain from helping a terrorist group under the guise of food aid. Demis Mekrar takes a look into the article as follows.
President Joe Biden recently signed an executive order which was claimed to allow fresh sanctions on the sides that are fueling the conflict in Ethiopia. According to a White House statement released on last Friday, Biden said that the order he signed establishes a new sanctions regime that would allow the U.S. government to target the ones who were either responsible or complicit in prolonging the conflict in the foreign nation. He also noted that the situation in Ethiopia has provided the U.S. Treasury Department with necessary authority to hold the government officials accountable. According to writers in the field, such claims of President Biden's are, however, nothing but part of his administration's humiliating foreign policy record. According to an American writer, Denton Collins, America has lost historic allies in Ethiopia and France just in a couple of days due to misguided foreign policy measures. Collins argued that the executive order has no doubt but emboldened the TPLF and prolonged the war in Ethiopia, other than alleviating the current crisis. Collins claims TPLF is a cunning modern equivalent of South African National Party of Apartheid and the Nazi Party of Germany. But the Biden administration, according to Collins, is now working to keep this terrorist group in life, providing a number of aids, including food aids. Collins said that the so-called food aid to Tigray by the US and other Western countries went out of purpose, and USAID mission also admitted that TPLF was indeed attacking and stealing food from aid storage depots.
I do believe that TPLF has been very opportunistic. Maybe they're stealing from citizens. We don't have proof of this, of course. What we do have proof of is that several of our warehouses have been looted and completely emptied in the areas, particularly Amhara, where the TPLF soldiers have gone into. Yes, we know that that's a fact. In Amhara now, we now know that the TPLF has every town that they've gone into. They've looted the warehouses. They've looted trucks. They have caused a great deal of destruction in all the villages they've visited, and it's a great concern for humanitarians.
This, according to Collins, has been a deliberate action of the U.S. to provide food aid to the TPLF group, which will serve as a fuel to keep the fighting. Collins argues the U.S. has long-standing knowledge of misuse of food aid by the TPLF when ruling Ethiopia, let alone while on the run. Referring to the 1980s, Collins stated that the TPLF survived by exaggerating the population under the threat of famine through the sale of food and other techniques involving their diaspora Tigrinya-speaking community in Sudan, from where arms were smuggled through. They also use food as a weapon of rewarding supporters and penalizing those who refuse to cooperate. Collins underlined in his articles and said the group is doing exactly the same these days too. Collins argues if the West is genuine about feeding Ethiopians in need, and in particular Tigray region, the first step is to acknowledge TPLF's history of misallocating and monetizing food aid. Collins concludes that if such actions will not put in place by the US and other Western countries, Ethiopia is in its right to eliminate any threat within or outside its borders.
Undue pressure on poor countries through the use of sanctions, propaganda, or intimidation for interest is inhumane and imperialistic, according to cybersecurity specialist and former member of the U.S. Department of Defense. Following the recent misguided move of the U.S. on Ethiopia, Oliver Thomas said this, adding that if America truly believes in democracy and that it is right for people to rule themselves, it will be hypocritical for us to try to control other people. Oliver Thomas is known for his criticism against some members of the international community, including the government of America, on their unfair attempts to pressurize Ethiopia. Ethiopian Human Rights Commission EHRC said it is alarmed by disturbing reports it is receiving about allegations of deliberate attacks against civilians in Kobo town and surrounding rural towns by TPLF fighters. TPLF perpetrated attacks include shelling of civilian areas, house-to-house search and killings, looting, and destruction of civilian infrastructure, EHRC indicated. While Ethiopian Human Rights Commission continues with its investigation, it reiterates its repeated call on all the obligations of all parties in the conflict to protect civilians at all times. The deliberate attacks against civilians in Kobo town and surrounding rural towns by TPLF has become a shocking incident to all Ethiopians and the Human Rights Commission of Ethiopia. Yibek Al-Giza from the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission has joined us over the phone. He briefs us more on the issue. Welcome, Yibek Al. It's so good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission seemed inconsistent in responding to atrocities committed by TPLF terrorists. How you happened now to express your concern for the violations of human rights in Kobo, because there were many committed so far. Why now? Why this attention now?
I would beg to differ on that point. I believe that we have on all occasions where we have found credible corroborated information on the commission of atrocities by any parties to the ongoing conflict in Tigray and Amhara and Afar regions. We have always, like I said, whenever we found credible information, we have always come out with public statements and expressions of concern and quotes. This incident, like our other reportings before, has been corroborated from eyewitnesses and survivors from the areas where the incident occurred, and therefore we felt that it was important to stress the need to protect civilians under all circumstances, including conflict situations.
Okay, how do you think such kinds of distractions can be prevented moving forward?
We understand that conflict in general creates very difficult circumstances for all parties when it comes to the protection of rights. But in fact, it's even more important in conflict circumstances to protect civilians. Not only international human rights law, but also international humanitarian law standards and rules apply. And we feel that as important as it is to prevent conflicts from erupting in the first place, once they do, it's all the more important to ensure that civilians and civilian objects and infrastructure are in no way targeted.
All right, Yibek Al-Giza from the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
This festival is amazing. It's bigger than I could imagine. We have nothing like this, nothing this big as a religious festival in the United States. So I'm overwhelmed. It's so joyful. I feel so much love in my heart watching your people be so excited here. It's been great.
Definitely, you see a lot of different pastors and churches come from different regions, and they all have their own different designs of the crosses, and they all bring together something different from their region to here, and it brings in so much other people too. And I'm definitely excited to see for the first time the burning of the Demera.
I've come to see this because it is such an important festival for everybody in Ethiopia, and the atmosphere is unique to itself. And so never having been here before, with the opportunity to come here, was one that I couldn't miss. So this is the first celebration I've seen that is of a religious nature.
I have never been a part of such an amazing spiritual and sacred event and celebration. If you could be here with me, you can just feel so much emotion and so much beauty. When I look around, you see everybody in their traditional clothes and they're wearing it with pride and with the Ethiopian materials. It's so beautiful and colorful, and the singing is so special as well.
It's a good chance to be here today and to visit the other universities in Ethiopia. I'm happy with my friends.
I have great admiration for the Ethiopian church. It is an Oriental church, and coming from Turkey, we are very familiar to the Oriental church in history. So first of all, this is very important for me, to be here. Secondly, this is an extraordinary festival. So colorful, so much representing the country as well.
Welcome back. The National Election Board of Ethiopia said it is finalizing preparations to run elections on September 30th, 2021 in Somali and Harari regions and referendum in Southwest People in the Southern Nations Nationalities and Peoples Regional State. Communication advisor of the election board, Soliana Shimelis, said the withdrawal of ONLF from the election is untimely and inconsequential. Alula Teklamariam has this report.
Ethiopia held 6th general election on June 21, 2021. Despite few irregularities, the 6th general election was said to be fair and democratic, as witnessed by the African Union Election Observation Mission and the Eastern African Standby Force. Accordingly, the Election Board of Ethiopia announced final results on July 10, where the ruling Prosperity Party won 410 out of 436 seats. Another round of election was provisionally scheduled for 6 September in other areas like Somali, Harar, and SNNP regional states, but now finally set to run elections on September 30 in these areas, as well as public referendum in southwestern peoples, according to Soliana Shimelis, the National Election Board of Ethiopia communication advisor.
As you know, we have conducted an election on June 21st in most part of the country, and there are remaining constituencies in different parts of the country, and then we're doing another one on September 30. So on those one, basically we're doing it in Somali region in all constituencies, in Harari in all constituencies, and then in Southern Nations and Nationalities and People region in some of the constituencies where previously election was not conducted or there is an election ordered by the court. So we also have a referendum for Southwest Ethiopia referendum, which is going to be a referendum of like 4 zones and 1 special warada. So we're conducting that on September 30 in general. We have been preparing a lot. We finished our logistical preparations and we started dispatching material for the election day, starting from the day before yesterday, and we plan to finish that this week. Regarding the political parties' participation in the campaign, we have around 22 political parties who are taking part in these regions, and then we have allocated airtime for their campaign in collaboration with the Ethiopian mass media agency or authority. So we have been working with them, and so we have given them an airtime in their regional medias where they can actually campaign or give information for voters.
She explained the inconsequentiality of the withdrawal of the Ogaden National Liberation Front from the election to be held in Somali regional state.
Specific to Somali region, we have heard some of the political parties say that they boycotted the election or they will not take part on the electoral process. I mean, technically, this is inconsequential because it's not going to change any operational things for NEBE, because we already have our ballot papers printed, we already have our results verification forms printed and distributed, so we cannot really change anything for that. And then so basically the law also says like a month before the election, political parties should announce if they are not taking part or they are changing candidates or so on, so that we can tell voters who's their actual candidates, and we can actually also do other operational changes. So basically, given the election is days away, we don't really see any consequence of such actions operationally on the electoral process.
Soliana further clarified how the board treated complaints of contending political parties.
The other one is we have also worked with political parties even earlier when they registered candidates. We have helped them to register their candidates at center level whenever they do have problems and couldn't make it at the constituency level. We have also supported political parties to be part of the investigation, to get the investigation report, give feedback, and see the results as well. So given that, like, we tried our best to include the voices of all political parties competing and complaints that they have. We have also worked on improving, helping the problems with the poll workers. We asked political parties running in the region to come up with the recommended poll workers that they can agree on their partiality. They couldn't provide that. But even though they couldn't provide, we are trying our best to send more people at the constituency level so that they can work they can ensure partiality, but at the same time also help the electoral process out there. So we tried all this, and I think technically from the board side, this is all what we can do to accommodate the complaints and suggestions from political parties.
Over 7.6 million voters and 22 political parties have been registered for the coming election that have 10 parliamentary seats.
Eritrean refugees in Addis Ababa have held demonstrations in front of UNHCR headquarters today to condemn TPLF atrocities against Eritrean refugee camps in the state of Tigray. The demonstrators have voiced the killing of innocent Eritreans, as well as human rights violations orchestrated by the TPLF clique in the refugee camps. The demonstrators also called upon the international community and international institutions to condemn the devilish acts of TPLF in the region. Reports revealed the TPLF gangs are committed various atrocities, ethnic cleansing, mob aggression, as well as other inhumane acts over the past 9 months. To reflect on the attacks on Eritrean refugees in the northern part of Ethiopia, here on the phone is Dr. Werku Yacob, a geopolitical analyst in the Horn of Africa. Welcome, Dr. Werku. We are grateful to have you.
Thank you for having me.
As we know, the TPLF clique is committing human rights violations against Eritrean refugees. What kinds of activities are needed to secure the refugees?
Since UNHCR is the main actor to protect the security of the refugees, and together with the international community, the UNHCR should work its own homework to safeguard the safety of these refugees which are under attack by the terrorist group.
Okay, why do you think the TPLF clique is targeting Eritrean refugees? Are they trying to get attention from the international community, or is there another reason behind the attacks?
Probably because at the moment what they have been aspiring is not fully in action, that they aim to capture Addis Ababa and to also to topple down the government. But now probably they are trying to provoke the Ethiopian government to do unplanned activities, and thereby to call upon the international community as if they themselves are under attack by the government. And second of all, probably since these are Eritrean refugees, they are also trying to regionalize, because if this attack is if it continues, the Eritrean government might try to retaliate. So in such a manner, they wanted to get this attention or to regionalize the issue. So this might be the things that they are trying to do.
All right, Dr. Worku Yakob, a geopolitical analyst in the Horn of Africa, once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Back again. As Meskel, or the finding of the true cross, draws near, preparations are underway to mark the occasion, which is an extension of the New Year vibe. One of the places where Meskel is celebrated with pomp and much fanfare is Wolaita Zone in the southern state. What is unique about this celebration is that it coincides with the New Year season of the Wolaita, the Gifata. One of the most formidable people with a lot of history, the Wolaita, marked the occasion after 15 days of rigorous preparations. Binyam Alamayu takes a look into it.
The Wolaita warmly celebrate the transition to a new year with the festive Yo-Yo Gifata. Under the spell of the Damut mountain, with lush green engulfing the whole zone, and with no expectations abound, the Wolaita start preparations way ahead of time.
ታስሮ የነበረው ከእንሰት የተሰራ ቡልአ ያለው ከቡልአ አቅርቤን ሙቾ ነው የሚባለው ሙቾ ማታ ተሰርቶ ጧት ጎረቤት ሁሉ ተሰብስቦ አብሮ ወደ 10 የሚሆኑ ጎረቤቶች ቡና አንድ ላይ አምጥቶ በአንድ ሽማግሌ ቤት ቡና ይጠጣሉ
The festivity is celebrated with a sense of unity and fraternity. A unique aspect of the Gifata festivity is the charity to the have-nots.
መስቀል አንድ ቀን ነው ዋናው እንትኑ እለቱ አንድ ነው ግፋታ ግን የአንድ ወር በዓል ነው የአንድ ወር በዓል ሲባል 15 ቀን የዝግጅት ጊዜ ነው 15 ቀን ደግሞ የመዝናኛ ጊዜ ነው
The occasion also gives a chance to young men and women to pick their future spouses.
በቃ መፈለጓን ታውቃለህ የማትፈልገው ሰው ከሆነ ግን አትመልስለት ያንን ሎሚ አስፈንጥራት ወረውራለች የፈለገችው ከሆነ ግን ሎሚውን ድርብ አርጋ ሁለት አርጋ ይበጣምም ከወደደችው ሶስት አርጋ በቃ ወድጃለሁ ትላለች
ዮዮ ግፋታ
ዮዮ ግፋታ
ዮዮ ግፋታ
Fascinating. The Oromo Liberation Front, or Elefshane Southern Wing Commander Jalgolicha Denge, has preferred peaceful struggle to the group's outdated insurgency. The commander declared the giving up of his 14-year armed struggle in appreciation of the democratic progress happening in Ethiopia. According to Jal, the current alliance of Elefshane with TPLF has overlooked the fact that the junta oppressed the people of Oromo for long. The commander has called on all rebel fighters to lay their arms and join the peaceful struggle in Ethiopia. Oromia Communication Bureau head Getachew Balcha, welcoming the commander at Bole Airport in Addis Ababa, encouraged others to do the same, affirming that, quote-unquote, the Oromo quest will never be answered with armed rebellion.
በሃዲያ ብሄር የሴቶች ሙያ መለኪያ ዋናው አተካና ነውና ይሄንን መስራት ካልቻልሽ ባላታገኝም ቢያገባሽ ራሱ ይፈታሻል ነው ይያሉኝ ያሉኝ
እና ለሁሉም ድርሻ አለው በመስቀል ላይ ክትፎ ይከተፍና ቤተሰብ ያው ባለው ልክ ለሁሉም ያን ቀን ዋለና ኒውሊን ዊትና ማቴ
And finally, the Ethiopian Airlines, Africa's largest airline, said it will resume flights to Enugu, Nigeria, as of October 1st. This is coming after 2 years of flight suspension following airport renovations. October 1st is Nigeria's Independence Day, and the flight to Enugu on that day will reinforce Ethiopian Airlines' good relations with Nigeria since the first flight to Nigeria in 1916. He noted that before the closure of the airport for runway repairs, Ethiopian was the only international airline flying to Enugu. You're watching Addis News Hour, a quick reminder of the day's headlines. A writer urges the U.S. to refrain from helping a terrorist group under the guise of food aid. And election board says withdrawal of ONLF from election is untimely and inconsequential. That's all we had for now. I'm Tabitha Domini. Thanks for watching. Have a good night and take care.